There are some like very aggressively pro-Trump people that I don't have direct relationship with, but like know people that are related to them. And from what I've heard from even their perspective, like not on Eurovision in general, but like they are also now anti-Israel. I mean, people who are like borderline QAnon. Gone all around. Let's look at the Eurovision shit. There was a pro-Palestine protester detained at Eurovision final during Israel's performance. I don't really watch Eurovision. I didn't watch it when I was in Turkey. I'm not really all that interested in it, even though, I mean, and it's not even because I'm not, it's not even because I'm not a music listener per se. I just don't think it's, I mean, who cares? But obviously, Eurovision is now basically become an opportunity for Israel to try and do reputation laundering. And they do it by force. They do it through trickery and they do it by force. It's so clear. Like, that's the only thing. That is the only thing that people care about with Eurovision. How Israel's performance sounded like at the arena of Eurovision 2025. The entire arena was screaming. The entire arena was booing, making noise, not in a positive way, but in a negative one. And yet, obviously, the TV shut off the crowd noise. Not only did they shut off the crowd noise, but they made it illegal to bring Palestinian flags in. They apprehended people who were waving Palestinian flags. And also, Israel spent a shit ton of money doing marketing for this Eurovision process. And I assume a lot of people also, participated in. A lot of people also participated in this like bullshit telephone voting process. Let's take a look at what the Soft Take had to say about Israel's participation in Eurovision.
Song contest as of late, especially this year. And it's not just because of the wacky outfits. While Israel faces mounting accusations of war crimes and international outrage,
I've seen so much. See, the general public actually likes Israel. You are just too online. Yeah, it's not. That's not the case. But the reason why they're doing that, the reason why they did that, is so they can say that. The reason why pro-Israel people are like freaking out about this and saying like, look at how wonderful this is. The world actually loves Israel, is because they want to create this air, this presence that like the world doesn't despise Israel. They do. Make no fucking mistake. They do. You in this community are infinitely closer to the average person's perspective on Israel's campaign in Gaza than whatever the they tried to present here.
They're still being given a global stage to rebrand themselves. Not through politics, but through dance and song. The good old move of art washing, when a nation uses culture, art, entertainment to distract from the reality and downplay human rights abuses. In this case, Israel is using the glitz and glam of Eurovision to present itself as the underdog, the victim, the voice of peace, all while carrying out in Gaza. Israel's contestant they've put forward this year is Yuval Raphael, an actual survivor from the Nova Festival attack.
Hello Eurovision fans, my name is Yuval Raphael and I will be representing Israel in the next Eurovision. I can't wait to see you all in Basel.
Now, let me just be clear that this isn't about dismissing the fear and trauma Yuval experienced. What I'm talking about is how Israel, in the 69th edition of the Eurovision Song Contest, has chosen a contestant whose very presence functions as just one enormous sob story. You know how American Idol sort of takes someone aside and gives them a little whisper in the ear? Those tears are dollar bills, alright. That is what this feels like, because not only does Yuval's persona and story of victimhood and resilience gets paraded around, the song she will perform just looks like a desperate attempt for a PR rebrand for the state of Israel. And, of course, Eurovision proves once again that its supposedly rule only seems to apply when it's convenient. But first, allow me to explain real quick what the Eurovision Song Contest is and how it works if you're unfamiliar. It would help grasp the not-so-subtle image makeover Israel is going for here. Because while it might seem like just another song contest, it is quite a cultural and political, whether they like it or not, spectacle watched by around 160 million people each year. And when it comes,
I've heard from pro-Trump people two things that reaffirm my position here. There are some like very aggressively pro-Trump people that I don't have direct relationship with, but like know people that are related to them. And from what I've heard from even their perspective, like not on Eurovision in general, but like they are also now anti-Israel. I mean, people who are like borderline QAnon, who are anti-Israel now. At the end of the day, people see the death of children and they're like, this is up. It's that simple.
Country like Israel takes center stage, especially in a year like this, there is a lot more going on than a fun and silly competition.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed delegations, dear guests from all around the world, this event unites us all, crossing borders, crossing languages, creating a shared space.
So maybe you've seen some snippets of it and wondered, is that what goes on in Europe? You'd be correct. Once a year, singers, bands, musicians get all dressed up and represent their country to give a performance of a lifetime with an original song live on stage. Flags wave, the host country's electricity bill shoots through the roof, and just about every LED light in Europe gets wired to one stage. It was launched in 1956 by the European Broadcasting Union and was meant to unite post-war Europe through music. Countries vote for each other, usually it's neighboring countries, trade partners, and occasional political crushes. And eventually, a winner is crowned. And despite being called the Eurovision, there are still countries outside the geographic region of Europe that participate, like Australia and Israel. That's because any country that is a member of the European Broadcasting Union can participate. To win, a country with the highest number of points, and this is where Israel loves to play around a little, points are gotten from professional jurors from each country that vote for a country of their choice. That makes up for half of the total vote. And the other half is made...
Yeah, this is like... This is just a propaganda operation for Israel. It's just a way to like try and make it seem as though people love Israel. And they pump the individual like telephone votes. They just rig it so they can get a high placement year over year. It is a way for Israel to try and make it seem as though there is more support for Israel than there actually is. You're talking about countries, right? You're talking about countries that voted for Israel on Eurovision, countries that literally have European countries that have a very negative opinion of Israel historically, like Norway, that voted for Israel. Get out of here. There was a historic number of people to the tune of 100,000 plus that marched to The Hague today in the Netherlands. Okay? It's bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's not real. It's just fucking completely rigged. And we just have to sit there and act like this is something that matters. Yeah, from what I understand, Eurovision is sponsored by Moroccan Oil, which is an Israeli company as well.
Fans voting through paid texts or phone calls, where individuals can vote for a maximum of 20 times. And like I said, this is the part where Israel can demonstrate its strong solidarity, turning bloodshed into ballads, headlines into harmonies.
Yeah, this is during her performance. And not only were they booing her the entire time, the way that they televised the broadcast, they shut off the crowd noise and pumped in, from what I understand, fake crowd noise of cheers. This is the rehearsal, not the finals.
Because when it came to the public vote for Israel in Eurovision 2024, just 7 months of responding to October 7th with a genocide, Israel received 323 public votes.
Yeah, the UK commentator said it's a mixed reaction. Not sure what you're hearing at home. Not only that, but also the Spanish broadcaster, the European Union Broadcasting Union, has threatened... Hold on. Why can't I pause this video? What the fuck? What the fuck is wrong with Twitter, man? The European Broadcasting Union has threatened to fine Spain's state broadcaster if its commentators reference Gaza during the Eurovision. It's a response after the Spanish commentators remembered Gaza when Israel's song was being introduced during the semifinal.
They will rise.
Yeah, they're saying that they reference this year Radio Television Española has requested to Eurovision a debate on Israel's participation in the festival. The victims of the Israeli attacks in Gaza now exceed 50,000, and among more than them, 15,000 children, according to the United Nations. This is not a petition against any country. It is a call for peace, justice, and respect for human rights in line with international human rights. So this was the Spanish graphic before the show started. When human rights are at stake, silence is not an option. Peace and justice for Palestine. Yeah, bad move by them for posting that after being warned not to. Eurovision is not supposed to be political. Yeah. Dumbest guy on the planet. Belgium did something like this as well, with many tens of famous Belgian people who said they disagree with Eurovision and that they stand with Palestine. It's so funny because, like, I repeat this over and over again, but Israel, for many who refuse to pay attention to politics, I think they go, why do you care about Israel so much? But what a lot of people don't understand is that Israel is a perfect demonstration of what happens when something is unimaginably unpopular by the masses, but it's still being maintained at a time when, like, social media has exploded and democratized information sharing to a certain degree, with, you know, some negative consequences as well. But it's created this massive fissure between our institutions and our mainstream media operations in some respects in the United States of America, for example, or the BBC. It is directly placing the democratic wishes of the broader public, even in the Western world, at odds with the institutions of control, institutions of propaganda, and also our politicians. It is such an obvious fissure, a direct contradiction with the wishes inside of these nation states that are supposed to be the defenders of liberal democracy. It exposes the lack of interest in maintaining democracy in these Western liberal democracies, because they would rather show that corruption to every single citizen than to move even a little bit away from their undying, unconditional defense of Israel and its genocide of the Palestinians. That's it. That's what's going on here. I don't really know what Eurovision is, but Israelis tried to cheat for it and they still lost. I voted 60 times for Israel, 20 from international, 20 from UK, 20 from Australia. Yes, I have credit cards from 3 different countries. I voted 100 times, used 5 credit cards. Israel almost won Eurovision with a shitty song and pure propaganda. Killing humans is not enough for them. They also try to kill art. Yeah. So they cooked the books to the best of their ability as they, as this is one of the only mechanisms that they have to just do propaganda. But here was even Graham Norton's take while this was happening.
And I think the EBU will be breathing the largest sigh of relief that they're not faced with a Tel Aviv final next year.
Yeah, the EBU will be breathing the largest sigh of relief that they're not faced with a Tel Aviv final. I was wondering why nobody was posting the clip of Graham Norton said at Eurovision. He had the audacity to say before Yuval's performance that the entry continues to be controversial, and he let the home audiences know that there was slightly a mixed response in the hall. That's it.
On to song number 4 now, and it's the turn of Israel. Now, of course, their participation in the competition continues to be controversial. Fewer protests this year, but a mixed response at some of the rehearsal. Not sure what you're hearing at home. A slightly mixed response here in the hall.
Yeah, they zoomed in on like a couple pro-Israel pro-Israel people in the crowd to not show the full scope of anger and resentment inside of the arena. Again, it is a carefully crafted propaganda operation, but it doesn't change the reality. It doesn't change the depravity of Israel's actions. It doesn't change the analysis that many average people, citizens in these countries, feel towards Israel. Israel has officially become a fucking pariah state, and it does not matter. They are trying to manufacture consent. They are trying to manufacture an alternative reality that does not exist.
323 points.
And remember, Eurovision, without any contest whatsoever, swiftly banned Russia from participating after Russia's unjustifiable invasion of Ukraine, which is fair. It's fair to do. And yet Israel, for 2 years in a row now, while continuing its genocide, has been allowed to participate in Eurovision. So when people say, oh, this is not political, remember, it just means that like Israel has more institutional influence in the Western world than Russia does to be able to participate in these things, to engage in the act of art washing.
It seemed like their coordinated voting campaign worked out when using a song that frames Israel as the victim once again. It was honestly quite chilling to see how so many people voted for a country that has made Gaza to be the deadliest place on earth to be a child. And one could argue that maybe the performance was good. And to that, I just say no. So this is where things get interesting, because while Eurovision claims to be strictly non-political, the reality is that voting patterns and even song choices, especially in Israel's case recently, are often heavily shaped by politics. Despite massive protests, Israel put forward Eden Golan to perform in the Eurovision Song Contest.
Wow, I'm over the moon about the results. We got everything we ever wanted, and the fact that we were here was already the winning.
They actually didn't do it because of Russia's action. They did it because most countries were threatening to drop out. Their only reason for getting Russia out was because of loss of income from other contestants.
Place for us.
And protests, controversy, how have you sort of got through that?
I was focused on my goal, on representing us with pride. And nothing around really affected me.
Eden's song was originally called October Rain, which directly referenced the Hamas attacks and leaned hard into a one-sided narrative of Israeli victimhood. Organizers of the Eurovision Song Contest stepped in and asked for changes, citing Eurovision's ban on overtly political messaging. And in response, the official Israeli broadcaster stated, "Israel must sound its voice with pride and its head high and raise its voice in every world forum, especially this year." Yes, because what better year for patriotic flexing than 2024? The same year Israel was responsible for unaliving 16,456 Palestinian children. So a rewritten version was submitted and their song was renamed Hurricane. We are flipping through weather reports trying to find something that sticks. Though that didn't stop the backlash and protests continued. Accusations of art washing mounted, artists threatened to boycott, and yet Israel was still greenlit to perform. And now we come to today. It's 2025. Israel hasn't exactly taken a day off in war crimes. You see the word genocide now being used by legal scholars, human rights groups, and at the International Court of Justice. Protesters are still protesting. And despite all of this, Israel is once again taking part in Eurovision. Last year, they tried to sneak in a song about the October 7th attacks, but that didn't work, so now this year they put a whole Nova Festival survivor from October 7th to perform for Israel and remind the people on why they started their quest on committing a genocide. Try and deny us of that, European Broadcasting Union. And they seem to have managed to navigate the Eurovision ban on political messages within the song itself this time. The lyrics aren't political on the surface, but arguably promote a certain narrative They're filled with vague messages about loss, light, and healing. Lyrics like, everyone cries, don't cry alone, all the pain will go by, a new day will rise. Lines like these lean into emotional recovery, which can resonate with national trauma or the mourning of war casualties. And while these are universal themes, in the context of Israel, they often align with narratives of victimhood, even though they're committing a genocide. Another part of the lyrics contains, "Many waters cannot quench love, nor can the floods drown it," which is actually a quote from a Hebrew Bible passage, Songs of Songs 8:7, which is apparently a powerful metaphor to express the unconquerable and indestructible nature of love. Did you think you would land in Bible class when you clicked on this video? And while the passage itself is a beautiful expression of love, singing this while a nation associated with that religious text is engaged in a war crime-riddled conflict that has cost countless Palestinian lives is bonkers. The juxtaposition of love and conflict is just bonkers, man. That's propaganda through poetry. Now, in contrast to that, Iceland's contestant in Eurovision 2019, a rock band called Hatari, was penalized for holding a Palestinian flag.
And we go to France. Our next country is France.
According to EurovisionWorld.com, the Icelandic broadcaster was fined 5,000 euros for holding the Palestinian flag. The contest organizers said that this gesture infringed their rules banning political gestures. Literally a Palestine.
Why is that a political gesture? I wonder. The recognition of Palestinians in Palestine is considered a political gesture, chat. It is a political gesture to recognize the humanity of the victims of genocide. Interesting. Of course, they didn't do this with Ukrainian flags. Ukraine gets to participate in Eurovision. Palestine does not. It is the most overt, most shameful display of hypocrisy by Western nations, an ongoing atrocity, and their lack of interest in doing anything meaningful to stop it.
Flag. It doesn't even say Free Palestine on it. So in 2019, a silent flag was too political. But in 2024 and 25, an entire song wrapped in Zionist symbolism is just art. This leaves us with the question. Is neutrality really neutral if it punishes the oppressed while platforming the powerful? It suggests that showing empathy for Palestinians is seen as controversial. So as a response, you will find some artists to find creative ways to show their solidarity with Palestinian suffering. Like Eric Saade. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that name. Eric from Sweden did with discreetly wearing the keffiyeh. And of course, with the EBU being the fun bunch of bastards they are, they issued a statement regretting that Saade wore the scarf. We regret that Eric Saade chose to compromise the non-political nature of the event. Come on, dude. God forbid someone put a bit of cloth with a certain pattern to display his own cultural heritage, by the way. Thankfully, this Belgian politician wasn't afraid to call this out.
Hoe hypocriet is het dat Israël vandaag gewoon kan meedoen aan het Eurovisie Songfestival, terwijl er ondertussen op datzelfde Eurovisie Songfestival Palestijnse vlaggen en Palestijnse sjaals verboden worden. En wel, ik heb hier een Palestijnse sjaal mee. Ik draag die met heel veel trots om te tonen dat wij zijn voor een einde aan die oorlog, voor een einde van die genocide en voor het staakt het vuur. En wij zijn met veel in de wereld die een einde willen aan dat geweld. En wij zullen niet zwijgen, wat jullie ook blijven proberen. Free Palestine, boycott Israel.
However, as of just very recently, Eurovision lifted the ban on Palestinian flags among the audience. Thank goodness for that. Although performers may feature only official flags of the country they are representing in the contest. And in another incident, guest singer Madonna supposedly provoked controversy when two of her dancers appeared on stage with Israeli and Palestinian flags on their costumes. As a response from Israel's culture minister, Miri Regev, it was an error, politics and a cultural event should not be mixed. Which is gobsmackingly hilarious because today Israel is trying to do just that more than any other contestant in this year and the last year. So I'm inclined to think that Miri Regev might have been talking about something else when talking about not being able to mix two things together. Another glaring double standard lies in how quickly Russia was banned from Eurovision in 2022 following its invasion of Ukraine. An appropriate and justified decision. Yet, somehow, that same logic doesn't apply to Israel, despite the staggering death toll and widespread international condemnation. However,
isn't it funny how all the way down to like dumbass slop tubers saying, oh, this is political, all the way to fucking Eurovision where nation states are complaining, something being considered political is always when it's a fucking non-state actor or a victim of a state actor. It's always political if it's like a marginalized community getting representation in video games. Call of Duty, not political. Call of Duty only becomes political when there's like female operators. Israel being invited while doing a genocide, not political. The mere mention of Palestinians, the victims of Israel genocide, political. Always the same principle, dude. Always.
Thankfully, many people are not silent on the imbalance of justice here. Across Europe, there have been street protests, online campaigns, and growing calls for a boycott of Eurovision 2025. Over 70 former contestants and industry figures have signed open letters urging the European Broadcasting Union to take a stand. Yet, Israel remains in the competition. Why? Well, part of the reason why might be because one of their presenting partners is Moroccan Oil, an Israeli cosmetics brand, and has been an event sponsor since 2020. The official Eurovision site does have a part in their FAQ that's all about why Israel is still participating, and honestly, it would save everyone time if they could just be upfront and be like, guys, Moroccan Oil is a sponsor. Don't ruin this for us. Anyway, they put Voices Against Genocide in an impossible position where if you push back, suddenly you're the one trying to cancel a survivor of a terrorist attack. Consider watching something else tonight. Stay loud because your voice...
Yeah, I don't care about that. Like, they're like, wow, you just don't want victims of the Nova attack to get a place. Like, yeah, I don't care. If their simple introduction to the event in and of itself is to launder the reputation of a country that's doing horrifying crimes on a daily basis, yeah, I don't give a shit. I don't care. What a cynical way to try and use identity politics like this. 61% of Eurovision fans in Britain said Israel shouldn't participate. 58% of all Britons, Israel shouldn't participate, shouldn't be allowed to compete. Eurovision fans, 61% said Israel shouldn't participate across the board. Ironically enough, seemingly Israel won all of these countries in the votes. They got like a shit ton of votes from all these different countries on the telephone votes. It's not that sophisticated of a propaganda operation, by the way. They're just simply pumping votes. It doesn't fucking matter.
Hey,